Welcome back to another episode of Buckle Up, an ultra running conversation. Mandy, are you drinking already? It's 9 a.m.
Okay, but I'm at Training Peaks and they have, what is this, cold brew?
Oh, it's not stout.
It's not stout. No.
Okay.
It's cold brew. We're at the Training Peaks headquarters, you guys, and Brian and I might just sneak in and record our podcast here all the time because they've got kombucha cold brew on draft 24/7.
Yeah, this place
It's
is
not
pretty
beer.
crazy. This place is pretty crazy. So we are at Training Peaks HQ right outside of Boulder, Colorado for a couple days. We're doing some workshops and networking with the great folks around here. They were gracious enough to let us into this recording studio, which for me is like celebrity status here because I know this is not my world championship jersey. Just
It's not?
Just to let you know, but it is a big to-do to be here. So this is Dirk Frail's recording studio for his podcast, and we were just able to use it today. So
Thanks, Training Peaks.
thank you, Training Peaks. We appreciate it. Today we're talking about, just met with a friend from France.
Yep. Terry Chiplin is the director of the U.S. Trail Running Conference. He ran training camps in Boulder. He started running in middle school, fell in love with it, really just has had an awesome relationship with running and is such a powerhouse of knowledge and personal experience in the sport. And he could have gone a lot of different ways in his career, but what I get from Terry the most and having met him and been involved in the conference and his mentorship program is he's really invested in giving back to the community and being a connector between athletes, coaches, race directors, and just everyone in the community. So it was a thrill to learn more about the conference, what he's got going on in this incredible app that really is here to help runners and us having a good mental headspace, getting through ultra, which we all know is mental. So it's really cool to see him bring something so innovative to the marketplace.
That's right. Activacuity is the name. Activacuity.com is the name of the app that Terry is launching and updating periodically as needed. We've all been there, right? We've had that negative feedback loop. You can't do it. Maybe not today. Do I really belong here? I don't look like the rest of them, or maybe I didn't do the training. All that negative feedback loop. Terry's trying to help break that cycle, and this app is the means to go ahead and do that. It sounds like a great app. I'm really excited to give it a whirl myself. Quite honestly, I'm sure I'll go download it this weekend and start poking around in there. And I think it'd be a great resource for myself. I think it'd be a great resource as a coach for my athletes to invest in as well. And Terry was gracious enough to give us a discount code for both the Trail Running Conference and Activacuity. So look down here in the show notes and give them both a whirl and see if it's an option for you.
Yeah, I'm going back to the conference. I went last year. Kind of that imposter syndrome that we all have in every arena. I wasn't sure that I deserved a space there. So I race direct 12 races a year, only a couple of them.
Only 12.
Only 12. I'm bored. Should get another part-time job or something. But only a couple of them are on trail and go through forest service lands and, felt relevant to me in this trail space. But I got there and quickly found that I was deserving of being there, even just as an ultra runner, a trail runner, a race director, whether it was road or on trail. The community that he gathers at this conference is top notch. We talk a little bit in the podcast about some of the race directors that are there that I get the honor of continuing to connect with on a mentorship program. I've gotten a mentor from this. I have mentoring other race directors, but really the conference also is full of people just that love the space. And so he shares a little bit more about the topics of the trail conference this year. It's in Knoxville in October, and we'll have that link there. But it's this interview with him is worth a listen for anybody really in this space.
What she's not telling you is that she's actually presenting as well this year at the conference.
I'm presenting. Yeah, I'm presenting. After I got to know Terry a little bit, my passion in the running space is being a connector and community and listening to what our communities need from us as race directors to make sure that we're serving our communities well. And so I really love that, like community and sponsorship piece of it. And how do you really get into your community and serve the runners there and your businesses, your nonprofits, your local government agencies, really listening to it as a whole. So I'm honored to go and speak about all of those things and sponsorships and what do they really mean and how do we use sponsorships to grow the sport and really give back and make a difference.
We talk a bit about it in the episode, but it's not just for the race directors, right? There's also a place for the athlete and probably even the coach. And so they need the feedback loop from all components of the ultra world, the trail world, to be able to help build better events. And they need your feedback in that process. So it's not just for the race director.
Yeah, it's not. We had a lot of people at the conference last year that weren't even race directors or vendors or had a business in racing. They just loved running and they wanted to hear what race directors were talking about behind the scenes and what kind of problems, issues, highs, lows, trends, changes in the sport we're seeing. They also wanted to have their voice heard in a really constructive way. And I love that so much because I know as runners, we can have a bad experience at a race or we don't like the way that something is trending in this sport and at our races. And there's no better place, you guys, than to show up to a space like this and be heard and listen and take it all in, because I promise you that today I continue to have conversations with Dale and with other race directors I'm working with about what we heard at that conference and how things are going. So really encourage you guys to join in on this conference if you're available, or find something else in your area, right? Just get involved in similar conferences or roundtable discussions to be an active part in that, because at the end of the day, you're our customers, right? And we want to make sure that you and the land that we use are heard and taken care of. So I like that. It was really unique. It's a very welcoming space. And as you guys listen and you hear Terry and his voice and his not weird accent, remember we sound strange, not him, you'll hear that that's really where his heart is at, is he's just a giver and he wants us to be a part of something good here.
It's a great conversation. Give Terry a like. Check out the two links down below for some discounts at the US Trail Running Conference and activacuity.com. Thanks for listening, guys. Without further ado, here's Terry Chiplin.
Cheers.
Welcome to the podcast, Terry. Thanks for coming on.
It's a pleasure to be here, Brian. Good to see you. And Mandy, are you like incognito here? Nobody knows you're there.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's the camera angle. We're both sitting next to each other. Maybe we could scoot just a little bit closer. But
I'm here.
But we're here.
That'd be really funny if he brought me on as a co-host though, and he's hiding me. So let me know if this goes live, you can't see me.
I think my ratings might get better if I went off the screen and Mandy was the host.
Probably a good idea, but yeah, we won't go into that.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Terry. Thanks for your honesty.
Okay.
Well, it's good to see you again, Terry.
It's good to be seen. I was going to say I haven't seen you since. No, we've had some video calls, haven't we? But in person, not since October. It's last year's. That's been a while.
Yes, yeah, the US Trail Running Conference, which I am so excited to go back this year and learn more about that on today's chat.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm excited to share bits with you, share news and what's happening.
I want to hear all about the USTRC, but I want to back up just a second. We usually just kind of get a backstory of our guest on how you came into this space, how you became a trail runner, what's your history with sport, and why do you talk funny?
We talk funny.
Well,
he talks normal.
Yeah. Well, language is an interesting thing to talk about, isn't it? Because it's like I can thoroughly blame my parents for the way I sound. I think I'm pretty much a mirror image of, although that's probably not the right word, for my dad in terms of how he sounded. I actually look a bit different, but we sound very similar. So yeah, so I'm a Brit for those people that can't pick the accent. I'm a Brit, so I was born and raised in south of England, but now live. So we've moved a few times in my life, and so lived in the States for 17 years, which is how I actually came to start trail running, because I left England at the tender age of how old was I? I was in my 50s, I think, and went to Colorado, and we decided at that point to set up a business where we were doing trail running camps and women's running camps in Colorado. And so I basically earned my living from taking people out running on trails. It was amazing.
And Terry, you were doing that up in Estes Park, right?
We were in Estes Park in Colorado, which, Mandy, I'm sure actually both of you probably know Estes Park already, but it's, for those of you that don't, it's the eastern gateway to Rocky Mountain National Park. And it's just a really gobsmackingly beautiful place. My wife and I were just talking the day before yesterday about there's actually actually a Native American curse that anybody who has looked upon the Estes Valley and Estes Park can never leave. And it's funny because we are missing being there. However, I'm also cursed in that I can't actually go back and live in the United States, which is a long story, which we probably won't go into now, but it's all to do with visa issues and things with immigration, which is obviously a pretty hot subject, but basically ran into some issues with that, but which we knew about when we went there, but we were hoping we would find a kind of a way through the challenges and the issues, and unfortunately we weren't able to. So we decided to leave, and we do miss. We had an incredible life there, and we do miss the mountains and the outdoors and the friends and the trail runners that we met when we were there. However, the conference gives me an opportunity to keep connected with a lot of the people that we met there and that were our friends or are our friends too. Yeah, so we arrived in Colorado in 2006 as road runners from England, started the business, and pretty much as soon as we arrived we lived 3 months in Boulder. We rented an apartment on 28th Street. In Boulder, and we were there for 3 months, and we started running trails, and it was like, oh my God, why did we not know about this before? And yeah, I think probably a lot of people have been in that place before, in terms of starting the trails or coming to trails for the first time. And kind of a lot of things like just fell into place once we started running trails. I got connected with Fleet Feet store in Boulder, which I don't think is there anymore because I think that passed by. But and that just helped introduce me to a ton and get connected to a ton of people in Colorado that were all trail runners. And one of the things that happened was I got connected with the American Trail Running Association, and so met initially Adam Chase was my first connection there. He's the president. And then I met Nancy Hobbs, who's the executive director, and met Peter Maximo and Tate Pullman and Susan Kendrick and lots of other people through the American Trail Running Association. And when we started, we actually did our first running camp in 2007. And once we started getting camps running, then we included membership for all of our campers with the American Trail Running Association for our trail running camps. And so that was the kind of beginning of a really, really strong and close relationship with the American Trail Running Association. And one of the things that happened was we were invited to another mountain town in Colorado who were at that stage keen to become the trail running capital of America. And living in Estes Park, I remember coming home from that situation and thinking, okay, I won't mention where this mountain town is, but it has a nice mountain and it has some nice trails, but in Estes, we have access to 355 miles of trails in Rocky Mountain National Park. And I remember coming home and thinking, if anywhere has the kind of audacity, if you like, to say we're the trail running capital of America, then I thought Estes Park might do. And at any point, one thing led to another. Talking with Nancy, we thought, hey, this would be a really great idea. How about a US trail running conference? Why don't we put a trail running conference together? And it was kind of like at that stage, I think trail running was already grown and developed to be something bigger than the poor sister of road running. And that's the way it had been kind of dealt with before. People had kind of tacked it on as a side thing, but road running, was the main thing. And so we set up the first US trail running conference. It was actually under a different name, but we started in 2013. In Estes Park, and it was at the Stanley Hotel, which is, for those of you that don't know the Stanley Hotel, it's kind of world famous. Stephen King stayed there and is inspired to write The Shining when he stayed at the Stanley Hotel. And it's rumored to be haunted, and a good friend of ours back in Estes Park is a medium, and she's had some interesting experiences there. Anyway, so we started off, and it was very much kind of, we weren't really sure what to do. We didn't have any real clue. There wasn't anything anything that said, hey, this is the format you should follow. This is what you need to talk about. And so we kind of put some sessions together, and we kind of watched what happened. And over initially the first few years, there was clearly we were doing mixed sessions really for both race directors and trail runners. And so it was a bit of something for everybody. But then we decided to change the format. And so we wanted to focus specifically time for race directors and then time for trail runners. And then also in 2019, we did our first year with a theme for the conference, because we felt it was important for the conference to actually have a theme as well. And so 2019, our first year theme was diversity, equity, and inclusion, which of course is another hot subject at the moment in the US. And it was amazing. I got connected then with Black Men Run, and we also had our first Indigenous people's opening ceremony. We had some friends that came up to Estes Park, and Indigenous peoples, Native American women, and they did their opening ceremony for us, which was really moving, really emotional. But we also had Billy Mills as our guest speaker, as our keynote speaker, and that was just amazing. Having the chance to meet him and listen to him was just incredible. And again, for those of you that don't know Billy Mills, he's I think still the only American male to have won a gold medal at the Olympics in K distance, and he won 1964. And hopefully we'll have a chance to talk more about him later on. But and then since then we've had a different theme each year, and we've actually kind of consolidated things a bit. So we decided we had one day for trail runners, and we decided to drop that off the schedule. Excuse me. And so now we have 3 days which are dedicated effectively to race directors and race content. But we also invite trail runners to come and join in the conversations, because I think it's really important to have end consumers in the room as well as race directors, because otherwise we can become a bit like an echo chamber. And all the race directors.
I'm starting to see the connection here, Terry, with Mandy and Run Windsor and the race direction that the conference has been taking lately.
Yeah, exactly. So Mandy was fabulous last year, and it was incredible to meet her for the first time. And she's, well, as you guys all know, she's just absolutely a minefield of wonderful ideas and bringing new passion and blood to the sport. So it's just fantastic.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I will say, we'll talk about the conference more, but I will say, I was telling Brian he's got to come this year, but I was unsure of if I should be there, if I had a place there. And I think you've done a wonderful job, Terry, of opening it to all levels of race directors, levels of runners. I mean, we have race directors there that put on a tiny little semi-famous foot race in the mountains of Colorado, as he says it. And then, we've also got race directors who are a very part-time director or employee of a nonprofit who put on one trail race a year while managing another full-time career. And then, everything in between. And I felt so welcome by you and everyone that was there helping put on the conference and attendees. So it's clear that you have taken all of the growth and what you've done since you started it in 2013, and it sounds like every year you put a lot of thought into how you mold it and develop it and make changes to make it a good experience. But it's a great time. If anyone listening hasn't checked it out, I highly recommend it.
Thank you. Well, I'm very proud of the event that we built, and the partnership with the American Trail Running Association has been key for that. Then, of course, our sponsors and exhibitors, and we've been very fortunate that we've had the presenting sponsor for this year and the previous 2 years is Marathon Printing, who are a family-owned organization based out of Oregon, and they've done incredible things to help support the trail running community. They've given free bibs, for example, to races that we've connected them with to help them get started. Basically, because it's like not every race director is in the situation where they have a shed load of money that they can shell out. Because often, the first race that you put on, as you know, is often the most challenging, because you have to buy some things up front. And so until you get some money coming in, then it can be difficult to get going. And thank you, Mandy, for your kind words on the conference. I mean, it's really, the idea behind the conference was really to provide a unique opportunity opportunity, and it is the only opportunity of its kind for race directors, people who are interested in the sport, to gather together, to network. And it is, it's wonderful to have somebody from, as you said, from a single race nonprofit once a year, to be able to talk to somebody like Dale Garland from Hard Rock.
Mm-hmm. He won't be mad if we call him out.
From a small race in the mountains of Colorado,
Yeah.
but he's been going since, what is it, 1976?
Mm-hmm.
Is it? Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time. And then we've also had, Craig Thornley from Western States. We've had, oh my gosh, name blanking at the moment. But we've had lots of different well-known individuals come to the conference, and to be able to sit down and share experiences and chew the fat with somebody who's had years and years of experience is just incredible. And the great thing is that, people like, Steve Adderholt. Sorry, that's what I was thinking of. Steve
Mm-hmm.
Adderholt from Cocodona,
Mm-hmm.
Ragnar Trail Relays previously. That, those people, despite all their experience, they still come to our conference and can learn new things and get inspired by the new people and new blood that they meet. And so it's a really great. I'm really proud of what we've created. This year we're returning to Knoxville in Tennessee. So big thanks to Visit Knoxville Sports Commission as well for their support. It's a really vibrant, for anybody that not been to Knoxville, it's a really vibrant trail running town. There's a lot going on there. If you need to travel by air, then there's an airport in Knoxville, or there's also Nashville Airport, which is a couple of hours away as well. And we'd love for anybody that's interested to come and join us. You can register at ustrailrunningconference.com, and register at button is on the homepage just below the picture line. Line.
What's the date of it, Terry?
Oh, that's a good question. It's October 15th to the 17th. And we usually, actually last year we were 1 week later, but there was a big 100-mile race locally, which we clashed with, which we didn't know about when we set the dates for 2024. So we've moved it back a year so that we can actually get more of the attract more of the local community to join us at the conference this year as well. So registration right now is for 3 days for a race director is $170 for the 3 days, and that includes 3 lunches, 2 networking evenings, some swag, and as much information as you can soak in 3 days.
Cheaper. That might be cheaper than the hotel room I paid for last night.
We're in Boulder.
Yes.
We're at Training Peaks. Yeah.
Probably true. True. Yeah. Actually,
so Terry.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
I was going to ask if you can share with us quickly. So you used to have segments specifically for runners. It sounds like you kind of melded it, and I was there, so I will speak to the fact that it definitely blended very well. I'm curious if there was one reason or experience that you decided to not have the two separate.
Yeah.
When you decided to kind of combine and just invite everyone to come for the whole conference.
Yeah, it was really, Mandy, that's a great question. Thank you. It's really about sustainability. There's, because if we have 2 different markets, then we have an expo, for example, for 2 days for race directors, and it's products and services that are used by race directors. So we can have race bibs, we can have timing, we can have awards, we can have apparel, we can have organization, communication, all of these things featured. But then for trail runners, what we had then was shoes and nutrition and drinks and all those kind of things. The problem was that the biggest crowd we ever attracted in total was 170 people. And so, if you have 170 race directors in the room, and that, last year, for example, the race directors 2024, including yourself, Maddie, they represented, I have the information here. He says, I think it was 63,000 runners. And so that gives us a lot more market segment for race directors rather than 170 trail runners. So it was really about sustainability for the event as a whole. And it made sense to focus on where we can have the biggest impact in terms of making change in the sport. And really, that's what the conference is about. It's about helping the sport move forwards so that we do become more diverse, more equitable, more inclusive. But also so that we can make sure that races are sustainable themselves in terms of the footprint they create. We've talked for a number of years about carbon neutral or even carbon negative, and is there a way for the sport to achieve that? And it's something that I think we should be doing. And of course, the biggest elephant in the room in terms of races and carbon footprint is or ecological footprint is travel. And so, if we can find a way to make sure that we at least cover and become carbon neutral in terms of the footprint that we create as races, then I think we're moving in a good direction. And then there's lots of things. We're unfortunately still in the same situation where sadly, women are still harassed and assaulted on the trails, and that shouldn't be happening. And as a sport, we can take steps to encourage races to introduce policies to help stop it. And then of course that also leads into there are so many things we can do a better job of, as a sport. I think, it also applies to a society as well. It's not that trail running is alone in this. We also have these societal problems on a larger scale as well. But at least we can do the best we can within the sport to make sure that the people that we attract into the sport are respected and valued and looked after.
It's the middle of May, Terry, and I understand that the conference is until October, so it's probably roughly 5 months away or so.
Yeah.
Is there can you give us a sneak peek as to maybe one or two topics that'll be covered in this year's event?
Oh, yes, I'd love to. Okay, so the theme this year is the future of trail running, technology solutions. And so we're putting a big focus on using technology and how we can use technology to help us grow and develop the sport and make it safer as well. And so I'll actually share with you, thought I might have a chance to do this. So I'll share with you just a few of the session subjects.
Great, thank you.
So day one, the first major session is State of the Sport. And here we're going to be hearing from our friends at the registration platform Ultra Signup, who probably a lot of people know. And they're going to be talking about their data from the sport in terms of so looking at kind of male-female split and what people are doing in terms of different distances and how different distances attract numbers of runners. We're also going to be talking that first day about the USTRC, the RD mentorship program that we introduced last year and that Mandy, bless you, has been a part of, and Dale Garland that we mentioned earlier from Hard Rock is also a part of as well. Mastering social media marketing, and then interactive problem solving, and then integrating AI into the sport. So how can we do that in a way that doesn't open us up into issues and challenges, but do it in a way that's safe as well? So that's day one. Two, we're talking about technology and sponsorship and community involvement. And guess who's going to be doing that presentation? That will be Mandy. And then we're talking about, yay, yes, come and see Mandy.
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
And then we're going to be talking about permits and relationships with land management services, which again is another hot subject with the defunding and the destaffing in terms of national parks. National Park Service and the and Bureau of Land Management, and then estimating event emissions and understanding offsets. We've got a speed networking with exhibitors session. Then we've got a session on breaking down barriers to entry, and this is specifically women and the LGBTQ communities. And then utilizing technology in event operations. And then on the last day, we're talking about breaking down barriers to entry. This time it's ethnicity, age, and adaptive athletes. And then managing event insurance. And then day of event coverage, live stream versus YouTube. and then, recruiting and retaining volunteers, and then technology-based storytelling, which of course includes podcasts. So, which is obviously a growing area. And so that's a quick run through. We've got some other cool bits and pieces in there as well. We got 2 networking evenings, lunch each day. So, as you can tell, it's a jam-packed, and we certainly move along pretty quickly, and it's a lot to process. So we do also provide a conference app. So that all the documentation and the schedule and the speakers and the exhibitors and all the participants are all on the conference app as well. So it's a really great way of connecting everybody together. So yeah, that's a quick run through for you.
Mandy said that I should come and participate in this conference, but she didn't. She said there's some great speakers, but she didn't mention that she's one of them.
Yeah,
it sounds jam packed, and it sounds like a ton of fun. I'll definitely consider it with my schedule, which all of our schedules are super busy in this day and age.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I think it's a great resource. If you're listening, you should go check out the site, see if you can make it work, and see what's available if you're into the conference. I think it sounds like a great resource.
Yeah. I was thinking, is it possible? I don't know if you can do this. I don't know when this is going out live, but I can share a discount code with you, so that race directors who are interested in attending, we can help them with $40 off. So bring it down to $130 for the 3 days. So if you can maybe put that in the show notes afterwards, or I don't know if that's possible.
Definitely, Terry. We can definitely offer that in the show notes. So it sounds like you need to create it first. So we can't even mention it right now, but we'll get that in the show notes for the discount off this year's conference.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if I can offer some encouragement, if someone's tuning into this and intrigued by it, but isn't necessarily a race director, I want to say that this space was very open and welcoming, and we need trail runners there. The race directors that were there are very open to ideas and feedback. And I left feeling like everyone got so well connected and left with support and ideas and included in all of that and that growth going forward. And so us as race directors, we certainly left there really thinking about the feedback, not only that we got from other race directors that are now mentors or people that are just coming up in the sport, but also the trail runners. And so if you are a trail runner and you have an opinion about something, it's kind of just like anything, right? You can have your opinion, but unless you're willing to go somewhere and voice that in a constructive, respectful way, there's not a whole lot we can do as race directors. So I loved having that variety of people there. Or if you're someone that you love this sport and you love running and you're like, I'd love to put on a race someday, but I have no idea what goes into it, where to start, what am I up against? Do I have support? Do I not? This is a great place to come and just learn what it takes to be a race director. And maybe you decide to start a race or not, but it's really just felt like an open to all. And to speak on that mentorship piece too, this has been so impactful. Now Steve, I've had several meetings with Steve Adderholt since he, I put on 2 cross-state relay races that are 200 miles long in Colorado. Well, that's exactly what Steve did. So I was hesitant at first to ask Steve, can I pick your brain a little bit? And he was like, absolutely. Let's get together in Colorado and get back. So we've had a couple of meetings, which is so amazing to think that we live in this day and age where we could be really competitive with each other. But I did not find that at all in this conference. I'm lucky enough to live in the same town as Dale. So we get together regularly and get to have coffee and him be a mentor. But I know even if I was states away, Dale's mentoring several people through this program. And you find that through the threads of everyone here. Alex from Colfax Marathon, we've had conversations here in Colorado, even though technically we're competitors, but he's still, we're still helping each other out. So just encouraging to anyone, this sport really is stronger together. The back of my shirt says that, doesn't it?
It does say that.
It does say that. That wasn't a pitch for my brand, but I really think we are stronger together, and it's a welcoming environment for everyone. So thank you, Terry, for sharing about the conference. I can't wait to be back.
Oh, very topical, very topical. Yeah, I mean that's. I'm glad you mentioned that, Mandy. Thank you for your kind words and support. We have had people exactly as you said. They've come to the conference before thinking, I think I'd like to be a race director, but I don't know what it entails. And so they've come and then found out more and then started a business and set things up and got things rolling. The other thing that we haven't mentioned so far is that, of course, a lot of road races are looking to also expand their portfolio. The great thing about trails is it gives you an add to your portfolio without the problems, with permitting and police and traffic control and all those kind of things that road races have. Of course, it does come with other challenges, but yeah, as you said, it's then because the community is so welcoming and supportive that it's everybody is welcome. Whether you're looking to come for the first time, or as a trail race director, or whether you're looking to start a race, or whether you're a road race director looking to add to your portfolio, then we'd love to see you. Yeah, we'd love you.
Terry, thanks so much for sharing about the U.S. Trail Running Conference. We appreciate the information.
Yeah.
I do want to be mindful of your time, and I don't want to. I think we'd be remiss not to talk about a new app that you're kind of rolling out
Yes.
and really excited about. So maybe you want to touch bases with that, and I think you have a partnership here going as well. So maybe you guys want to talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So the app is called activacuity, and it's ACTIVACUITY. It's essentially it's a library of audio sessions, and the idea is that we all have imagination. It's like we can yeah, we have all at some point in our lives imagined ourselves being somewhere at some time. Whether it's like being with somebody or being on our own or however it was, then, our imagination is an incredibly powerful tool, but we don't always use it in a very positive way. Yeah. And most people, if you say to them, if you're talking to them like the week before a race, then what's the thing they're often talking about? It's like, have I done enough training? Is my niggle going to become something worse? Is it going to be too hot? Is it going to be too cold? Is it going to be wet? Is it going to be muddy? Am I going to wear the right shoes? Who am I going to be running against? Am I going to win my age group? And this is where traditionally kind of our imagination goes. So we often kind of create ideas in our mind that actually take us away from the powerful, exciting, passionate, incredible person that we are. And so we lose touch with that person. And often when we get to the start line or a training run or wherever it is, we've already done all the good we've been doing in our training. We've already undone that with what we're doing in terms of the way we're thinking in our mind. So yeah, Brian, I mean, you're nodding there. I mean, you're a coach as well. So, this is something that as a coach, really well. And Mandy, I mean, you coach as well. So, for coaches, it's a really tough thing because, you can set somebody a training program with the best will in the world and they follow the training program, but you don't know what they're thinking. Unless you spend several hours a day with somebody, then it's really hard to see kind of inside. You might get clues in a short conversation, but a lot of people also can be very protective of themselves and kind of not be that vulnerable person. And that makes it really hard for your job as coach. But equally, as that person who doesn't like being vulnerable, then you can get stuck in some bad ruts, basically. And so I grew up as a runner in England, and it's like I just wanted to run all the time. It's like I could not stop thinking about running. My imagination was I was going to be a 100 and 220 sprinter on the track, and I was going to be an Olympic athlete. Well, Mandy, you've met me, so I'm a pretty lean guy. But Brian and those listening in, then yeah, I'm a lean dude. I am not a powerhouse. Yeah, I am not like big muscles, and I'm not 170 pounds of Usain Bolt or whatever his weight was. But anyway, so I raced every race I did from 8 years old to about 15 years old. I won, and I was just carried on this dream that was thinking, man, this is just so much fun. And it's like you just keep going. And then got to about 15 and the guys I was running up against started growing bigger muscles and my muscles were still there, but they weren't growing so big. So I'm like, shoot. And I ended up, the best I was going was second or third or fourth. And it just killed me. It was like, my dream was disappearing. And it was like, my parents, God bless them, they're not with us anymore, but they weren't being vulnerable themselves or encouraging me to be vulnerable. And so, it was kind of like I was expected to suck it all up. And of course, all that meant was I just internalized all the shit. And so I then came out of school and I went to university. I discovered sex and drugs and rock and roll. And that was like my way out of feeling bad. And a lot of people go through this same kind of situation. And anyway, I cut a long story short, I studied sports psychology and sports physiology at university in England in my 50s. And one of the things that I studied, and I had the great benefit that one of our professors and one of our lecturers was actually on a sports science team for UK, back in the UK. And I was actually doing field work in terms of sports psychology with different teams and athletes. And it was amazing. And I was just blown away because I was like, oh my God, if I'd known this stuff back when I was 14, 15, then, I could have been a different person because, I then understood it's like, shoot, it's like my physiology is built for endurance. I used to have pretty good leg speed. So that was a really good benefit for me in terms of endurance running as well. And so anyway, I while I was at university, I was like, oh man, at some point I just want to utilize what I learned. Well, I started utilizing it by becoming a coach myself. And so working with athletes. And then once we moved to Colorado, then I was working with camps of athletes, and so it was really good to kind of work with some different people and different situations, and just kind of see how what I learned, how I could implement it. So anyway, one of the things that I was doing was I was coaching for a group down in Boulder called Revolution Running, and they did the training program for the Boulder. Amongst other things. And so one runner I've been coaching said to me one day, hey, you've got to listen, check out this guy. He's got an app called Headspace. And so she explained about it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I tried doing meditation, and I knew that it was really helpful, but it's also pretty challenging to meditate. To the extent that you can actually relax and quiet your mind, because that's what meditation is about, really. And so I got back home and I told my wife, and I downloaded Headspace, and we started listening. And after I'd been using Headspace for a few months, I was getting pretty good. Anyway, one session that I was in, somewhere within the session, I reached this place of absolute peace. There was nothing. And I don't know if you've ever been there.
Lovely.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's such a wonderful place. Anyway, yeah, I all of a sudden, I heard this voice, and the voice wasn't from Headspace. It was somebody else's voice. And the voice said, you're going to do an app and you know exactly what to do. And I'm still like, nothing. It's like I'm just soaking it in. And there wasn't anything like, what do they mean? Who is that? It was just peace. It was still peace. Anyway, at the end of the session, I came around and I did know exactly what the app was going to be. And I knew exactly what it was going to contain. So that was how the app came to be. And the app is literally a library of audio files. And the idea is that it's really about using the power of your imagination, but in a positive, directed way. And so each session has a specific task or focus, and we have different segments that we split the app up into. So we have an introductory series, which is where we encourage everybody to start. We also then have sessions on focus, confidence, positive imagery, commitment, creating intentions, healing, runner's mindset, which is a specific session that we created or group that we created, race mindset, and then present moment. And we're adding sessions as we go through and develop the app as well. And it's only available for iOS. I didn't know when we set out on this journey that iOS was to some extent much easier to set up in terms of coding than Android. And so that's the way that is at this moment. But then 70% of our clients were iOS users anyways. So that worked out well. It's probably the same for you guys too, yeah. And so we have monthly and annual subscriptions. We've made it very affordable. $60 US, $60 US for a year, or $10 per month, and then you can just roll and have it monthly by month. And the idea behind it is that it encourages you to think positively about yourself. And the beauty of it is that if you, not only that helps you, but that also helps everybody around you as well. Because if you're being nicer to yourself, you can't help but be nicer to other people as well. And the fantastic thing is that we've had people, achieve far more than they expected to in terms of race performances. We also found that they've been able to enjoy the experience of training, or enjoy the experience of running, and enjoy the experience of putting themselves up against the wall and finding out what they can do. It's been an amazing process. Have we got time? I wanted to share a couple of examples with you of how one of the first ways that I discovered the power of the mind, and how you can use your mind to change your situation.
I think that sounds great, Terry.
Yeah.
Athletes definitely, including myself and Mandy, get into these negative feedback loops.
Yes.
And we can just bring ourselves down really quickly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'd love to hear more about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are some things we can't change, but we can always change the way we're thinking. Yeah, we always have a choice. Every moment we have a choice. So I was out for a run one day back in England, and I can't remember, it was probably November, something like that. And it was raining. And I went out, set off on a 10-mile run. And I was doing a loop, and I was 5 miles into the run. And I was like, I am not enjoying this. It's cold, it's wet, I'm getting miserable, and it's like, I just want to stop and get a lift home. And I was like, okay, what can you change here? And I thought about it for a second, and I was like, okay, what if every drop of rain you believed was warm rain, not cold rain? So that's what I did. And the moment I made that decision, completely changed my experience of the run. And so it went from being, I was really pissed off and disheartened, to this is a fabulous run. And I was still wet, my body was still cold, but in my mind, I was in a different place. And that's all it took. And then another example, there was a woman at one of our camps who said to me that she was sure she couldn't run faster than 8-minute mile. And I'm like, where do you think you can't run faster than 8-minute mile? It's like, where do you get that information from? And of course, it's something we put a limit in our heads. It's like, I can't run faster than 8 minutes. I can't run more than 10K. I can't run more than 100K, whatever it is. We put a limit on ourselves. And then we end up believing it because we repeat it to ourselves, and we end up believing it. Yeah. Repeated thoughts become beliefs. So I'm running with her in Rocky Mountain National Park. We're on a downhill slope, and I'm pretty good at pacing. And I'm struggling along, and I'm thinking, we're doing more than 8-minute mile. We're faster than 8-minute mile right now. And so I turned to her and I said, hey, how are you feeling? And she said, this feels great. This is amazing. I'm just loving this run. It's fantastic. And then just a short while afterwards, she happened to glance at her wristwatch, and she saw what pace she was doing. And within seconds, one thing happened, she slowed down. Second thing that happened was she got physically sick. Yeah. And it was like, man, this is what we're up against. Yeah. But without that information, I really wonder what would have happened if she hadn't looked at her wristwatch, and then she finished the run, and then she checked her data, and then she was like, wow, maybe I can run more faster than 8-minute mile. Yeah. And then the third thing I wanted to share was Billy Mills, I mentioned earlier on, that he was not expected to win that gold medal in Tokyo in 1964, but he visualized his heart out before the race. 1964. This is not new technology. This has been around for a long time. But activacuity is, I believe, at least in the marketplace at the moment, is unique in that it is the only app that actually gives you access to guided imagery sessions, which help you as an athlete visualize specific situations. And that could be something like, as an athlete, I want to work on running faster. And then from your perspective as coaches, then this gives you an opportunity to provide support that you can recommend to your athletes, which then helps them to think positively about themselves. And so it's yeah, it's a really exciting app. I'm very excited to be sharing news on this with you. We're relaunching the app. We actually had the app offline for a couple of years because we had some coding issues, because iOS, when it updates, then we hit a snag where the app wasn't displaying visually the way that it should do or was originally designed to, and so we had to recode it and things. So that's one of the drawback about apps, and I'm sure Mandy, you and I can talk about that another time. But yeah. So we're going to do the same thing again. I'll share a code with you guys, and for activacuity, and we'd love to hear from anybody who's interested in using the app. We're also very interested. We don't have at this moment any ultra runners that have used the app, and I would be very interested in any ultra runners that are interested in becoming, if you are like an ambassador for activacuity. So Brian or Mandy, if you know anybody, or if anybody listening in, then they can reach out and contact me, and we can get that going. Because
we might know a few people.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll sign up for a big race next week, and then I'll hire a coach, download the app.
You know, Terry, I really love what you're putting together. I personally experienced all those things, the negative feedback loop, and I also put parameters on my performance. Yeah. And I try to tell my athletes not to do that. Back in the day, I was training for an Ironman, and I thought I could do a 12-hour Ironman. Yeah. And I put this number on my Ironman, and I finished in 12 hours and 3 minutes. Yeah. But I always thought after the fact, and obviously hindsight's always 20/20, but I thought after the fact, I said, gosh, what if I thought I could do an 11-hour Ironman? Could I have done an 11-hour Ironman? Yes. I just put the parameters on it. Yes, so I try to get my athletes to think outside of that box. Like, I want you to run hard, I want you to run efficiently and have a great time, but don't put a timestamp on too much of it, or within reason, be looser than a firm number. Yes. Because you might surprise yourself and exceed that, and also maybe not hit the goal, but you might also exceed it as well. Yeah, exactly. One of the sessions on the app is give yourself a chance, and that's a key thing, because you're absolutely right. We go into something thinking, hey, I'm aiming for 12 hours or whatever it is. I'm aiming for 100th place or whatever it is, and but then as soon as we do that, then we're not giving ourselves the chance. Could I have done any better? Yeah. So it's a very powerful tool, and there's lots of different tips and tricks to get your mind in a different place, which can then and it's all about, the thing with performance is it's all about energy flow. And if we're doing something with our mind that is interrupting that energy flow, then we're not giving ourselves the best chance to be the best version of ourselves we can be. And yeah, it's so exciting to watch, because as coaches, you can see the light inside your clients. You can see the light inside your athletes. But sometimes they can't see it, and you're like, oh, I wish I could get this person to this place, because I think they can do so much more. And that's, activacuity, has been designed to help coaches and athletes with that issue. So yeah, I'm really excited to share it. You mentioned that it stemmed from, or I guess you mentioned that you would have really benefited from when you were a teenager yourself. Yes. And I find it really interesting as well. I currently coach high school track, and I'm looking to get into coaching high school cross country again. Oh, cool. Locally in the town that I live in. And so I'm really excited to and I always feel like they're a really vulnerable population. There's a lot of changes going on in their bodies. They're really trying to push themselves in sport and education, and just there's a lot going on in a high schooler's day, and to be able to share some time with them and share some insights would really benefit myself to help them. Yeah, fabulous. Well, one of the things that when I came up with the idea for activacuity, then I was like, okay, this has got so much potential, and I thought, how can I give back through activacuity? So one of the things that we set up and I'd love for this to get cooking again, is that. So I thought for every client that purchases a subscription for activacuity, then we would give a free subscription to a high school or student, either a cross country or track and field. And so, yeah, I'd love to talk with you more, maybe offline, about how we could set that up, and
I mean, it's so easy for me to set up activacuity so that we can roll it out to a group of athletes, so a school team, something like that as well. So yeah, so tons of potential. We could definitely talk about.
Mandy and I are here at Training Peaks headquarters for the rest of today, and we've been here all day yesterday, most of the day yesterday.
Yeah.
And we're talking about coaching and putting these workouts and how to structure workouts on the athletes' calendars.
Yes.
But I think this active acuity could be baked right into the training plan for athletes as well. So we could, as an athlete, you get your workout done in the morning, and then in the evening hours, maybe you're putting some headphones on and kind of just reaffirming the work that you're doing, and getting some positive feedback for yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Brian. I mean, that's a great point, a reminder for me. So for those folks listening in who haven't used imagery or visualization in any way before, then this isn't something you do during your run. It's something you do outside of, either before or after. And so yes, I mean, it's like, I think of it as like a daily multivitamin. It's it's something you do. And of course, we recommend consistent training, and that's one of the ways we get biggest improvements in terms of performance physically. Well, exactly the same thing with your mind. It's like you need to do the same thing. You need to be consistently thinking positively about yourself and constructively rather than negatively. And the best way to to start somebody off is to set them up so that they'll follow consistently. Yeah.
We all know that the ultra is so much a head game in your mindset. And when I talk to people about going into ultra, my first recommendation is you got to have your head right. The training, yes, is super important. Your nutrition is important. But if you're out there and you're struggling and you don't know how to tap into those mental positive stores and you haven't practiced it before, and now you're trying to all of a sudden talk yourself up and be motivated and positive about yourself, and you've never done it in training, good luck. I mean, so I think this is such a cool thing. I love your idea, Brian, about baking this straight into your Training Peaks plan where there's a link and they click it. And as the coach, that's a lot of pressure for a coach to try to guide your runner through the physical aspects of training, but the mental and emotional. But I think we need to lean on other professionals and other resources to do that and be a connecting point. And Brian, you kind of mentioned a partnership, and that's exactly my mindset as a race director. I want to lead my runners to be healthy, happy, both mentally, emotionally, and physically at the start line and at the finish line. And the way I can do that is by connecting them with coaches and resources on the mental side and meditation, nutrition, all the things. So we love the work you're doing there. And you clearly have the resume and the experience as a runner yourself your whole life and working with runners in these camps to have provided it. So I think you're bringing something really awesome to the market.
Thank you, guys. I mean, I think you're right. There's a lot of potential both for individual athletes, but also for training groups, for high school groups. I did actually do some work with some high schoolers back in Colorado before we left, and so yeah, we've definitely had some success. I also used to go in every year and do a presentation to Estes Park High School, to their sports science department. And yeah, it was another piece of what we missed being here. But France is lovely, but boy, Colorado sure has a lot. So that curse is wounding us, hurting us right now.
Well, Terry, we appreciate your time. We want to be mindful of it as well. We loved all the information. You have so much going on, and you're offering so much to our ultra community that we share and love in as well. There's 2 links down below that Terry has shared with us graciously: the USTRC discount code and the activacuity.com discount code. Again, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sharing those great, wonderful resources with us.
Been a pleasure. Right, nice to meet you, at least online. And Mandy, it'll be a great opportunity to see you again in October. Thank you so much for all your connectivity and you've been a star. It's been a real pleasure to meet you.
Oh, well, thank you. Same to you. And I'll see you in person very soon. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Okay.